everybody, and welcome back to Advanced Kayak Angler. This is a show where you're going to find out like the absolute details, usually on technique-specific things. Sometimes we'll go into other things, but this week we're going to be talking about jerkbaits, and we have two of the best jerkbait anglers, kayak anglers in the absolute country. Go ahead and bring them in, not waste any time here. We got Rolando Nandin. Hopefully I said that right. And yeah.
Hey guys, I can't hear you, Dan.
Oh, okay. We'll hear. And the other person is Chuck Wise. Can you hear me okay now?
How's it going?
Hey Chuck, I can hear you, but I don't think I can hear Dan. Can you hear him?
I can hear Dan, yep.
Okay, I can hear you, but I can't hear Dan.
That's weird. No, nothing? Still can't hear me?
But I hear Chuck.
Well, why the heck is that? All right. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now.
How about that? StreamYard, a little glitch. I took myself out and put myself back in. Now you can hear me. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to talk about jerkbaits tonight. We'll do some intros first. Chuck, tell everybody who you are, man.
Chuck Wise. I've been fishing for a long time. Been kayak fishing for, I don't even know, since at least 2012 or earlier. So I've been doing it for a while, and, I love it.
There you go. Fished on the Auburn team. Yeah. Part of the KFL current and reigning KFL champion Coosa Kingfishers. Me too.
That's right.
But, yeah. And all right, Rolando, how about you, man?
Yeah, Rolando Nandin here. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. I've been fishing since I was a kid. Been doing a lot of, grew up fishing, bank fishing, and then didn't get into the kayak scene really until about 2016. And then I think I fished my first tournament in 2017 here in Texas, the Cats tournaments they used to call them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And kind of went up through there. And then I got into the whole national deal, right? So started doing some of the national events. I wish I could do a little bit more, but limited with the work and stuff. But yeah, just been here fishing pretty much since I was a kid. Do the tournament scene 2017, and didn't jump into the national deal until I think it was 2019, and been fishing. I started off with a little small kayak from Academy type of deal, and then I swore I wouldn't spend $5,000 on a kayak, and that changed like immediately after I tried it the first time.
Yeah. What kind of kayak are you in now?
I'm in a Hobie Pro Angler 14, 360, PA 360.
Two big graphs? Because you have live
one
scope, right?
Yeah, I only use one graph. I don't think I'll be ever going to two graphs as of yet. I don't really see a need for it on my kayak. Yeah. But who knows? We'll see. Time will tell.
Do you have your graph out front, or I have a PA too? Is why I asked. Graph in the front or to the side?
No, for my style of fishing, it wouldn't work to have it in the front. So I keep it very close to my left, out of the way. I do a lot of skipping. If I'm fishing docks, I can't have anything in front of me.
I know. I can't either. Like, yeah, it's the same way with bow mounted trolling motor. I love to skip and everything else. I can't get over that. Like, I know Chuck has one, but I'm like, I don't get it, man.
No, it just depends on your styles. I think like for me, it just does not work. I would hit whatever's in the front up there like all day long, broken rods. I mean, and especially if it's a fishing fishery that has a lot of docks, it'd be really difficult for me to do that with something in the way up there.
I know some of the show we're going to be bumping up against live scope is kind of why I ask about electronics. Is it a Garmin?
Garmin, yep.
Yeah. Chuck, too? You want to tell them everything you got, Chuck?
Yeah, I got a Titan 10.5. Man, I've had it for, I guess, going on 3 years now. And it's a 2016 boat, so it's old. Made quite a few repairs on it, but it's still kicking. I think I can get one more year out of it, and then I'll get something else. But yeah, I got the XI3. I keep it down pretty low, so
yeah,
I don't really ever worry about hitting that. I skip a lot of docks too, and then I got I had the 93 SV last year, but this year I made a small little upgrade to the 106.
Yeah, that's what I got now.
It is completely different.
Yeah, it's much nicer for sure.
It's a great unit. But
Yep.
Why y'all talking bad about my 93?
hey, that 93
Hey,
has a special place in my heart. I like it a lot.
yeah, the 93 is actually a really good unit for the price. But when you make that jump and you get that, it doesn't look like a big deal, but if you get that little extra inch on there, it really helps with side scan, for
Oh
me
yeah,
at least. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's also
and
got more
when you're
pixels.
talking about, yeah, when you're talking about the graphics too, like to be able to actually see things, it's a lot more clear.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry,
All right.
Dan.
Yeah.
Hey,
And
you know what? In November, wait for November though, because those things go on sale.
yeah.
Yep.
So,
But then you'll have some brand new thing come back on the show and then tell me how awesome that is. No, and it just it is what it is. I thought about going to 2 and everything else. I want to. I keep my net like in the sail mount. I
yep.
have a rotor grip, and that's where I keep my net, like right in front of me. I love I feel like I have my whole setup so perfect, and so I have everything lined out exactly how I want it. I don't think I want them graphs up there. It seems like it. Maybe I'm just fat, but like reaching over to change them all the
Well,
time.
you know that to me, it really affects my style because when I go practice, I use the side scan a lot, and
Mhm.
so I that's too far for me to go put a waypoint or mark a brush pile for
Yeah,
me. And so like, and honestly, in practice, sometimes I'm literally just gunning sometimes in practice and just looking for things. I'm not even fishing. Like I'm just looking for things and I'm marking stuff. So it would be so inefficient for me to have it way up there where I can't touch it, you
yeah,
know?
you'd be leaning over all the time.
Yeah. But like I said, it's just style. I think it depends how you practice and
Yeah,
you know how you do things. So for me, it's not efficient for my style.
there you go.
Yep.
All right, so we'll go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Chuck.
I have mine on my right side because with the Titan, the handle's on the left.
Oh,
So,
okay, yeah.
but that's the only thing.
Gotcha. I've had it on both sides of my. I mean, I'm right-handed, but I had it. It was kind of the same way in the old. I had a big water, the Predator big water, and it was on my right side. I can't remember why I did that. There was some reason. It must have
I,
been the handle or something. There she is.
hey there.
Say hey, CC.
Hey,
There's a bunch
yeah,
of sharp hooks over here.
baby on board.
Yeah, I had it on my right side too, man, but I had to move it. When I first started, I had it on the right, and I moved it because of specifically because of jerkbaits.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep. And so like well, I don't have the luxury to doing it downwards because a lot of times you're sitting down.
Yeah.
But since I'm right-handed and I'm holding the rod and reel with my left, I can't do it on this side, so I got to do it to the right side, and it would be in my way.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely have to work around it a little bit. Like
Yeah.
between my motor guide and the graph, I can work it.
Yep.
And then if my boat turns a little bit, I go behind the graph and I work it like that. And then I'll do the backhand working it too. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
most time I can stand up. If I'm not scoping around, I'll stand up, and then there's no issue.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, what was that?
Uh-oh.
All right.
Someone else joining in?
Yeah, I hope it don't restart or something.
Yeah.
You never know. All right, so we'll go ahead and talk about the baits. Like what? Just give us a rundown on what baits you're keeping it. I mean, I will say some shows we have like Ned Rig and Shaky Heads. Those things I'm well versed. I feel like I'm an advanced level. I am a novice whenever, easily novice at best whenever it comes jerkbait fishing. You can't throw everything that you have in the box, but I carry a few, just not many, maybe 4 or 5. Just whenever I know, like it's the exact right situation. Chuck's holding up like an entire jerkbait
I
box.
have
Yeah.
I have 3 boxes
Yeah,
that
so
I'll
do I.
carry.
Yeah.
Like this is half full of jerk baits, and this is like at least 2 slots full of jerk baits, and then the whole other one.
All right,
Yeah.
talk. You got them. Talk about which baits you're throwing, man, and
Uh,
why. Well, like, what's the difference? I mean, the whole thing: colors, hooks, how you want it to fall. Because I've seen so many videos where you want to like perfectly suspend. Some like Hank Cherry want
mhm.
the back end to fall. Like that was his
Yep.
thing at the classic. I
That's the
don't
deal with his jerkbait. Yeah.
I don't
the-
understand all of this. Please explain it,
We'll try
yeah.
to learn you something, Dan.
please.
Yeah. I mean, Chuck, if you want to go first, that's fine too, or I can go first. It don't matter.
I mean, where do you want to start again? Just what baits we're using?
Yeah, what baits, I guess,
Brands?
and why? Like like when are you throwing one over another? You know, what the action that you're looking for, whatever it is, why you throw that bait.
Well, I'll start with my number one favorite. I always start with it. Mainly the color, the size can vary, but it's a Megabass 110 plus one in
The
the
plus one, all right.
yeah, the plus one junior. This is the smaller size.
Yep.
This is uh, GP stain reaction OB. You got to have the orange belly, Dan.
Yeah, you do. Yep.
This it probably looks familiar. I'm pretty sure it's the one that Hank Cherry did so well in that Gunnersville Classic. But just if you don't know anything, going to a lake, you can't beat that color or that size. I have the regular 110, the 110 plus one. I have those as well in that same color. But 90
That's a all around
times
good.
if I'm starting and I don't know anything, I'm throwing this one right here. That 110 Megabass Vision 110 plus one junior.
All right,
Yeah.
so why that one over Spro McStick or the I'm a Flint or the all the other, 6 cents provoke, all the other ones out there? Why is that one the deal?
So I've used a ton of jerkbaits, and Rolando, I'm sure you have too. But
Yeah.
you kind of fall on your favorite ones. I'm not brand loyal, so I can throw them all. I mean, there's a bunch of good ones. The Hank Cherry one's good too. This one suspends perfectly in all water temperatures, as far as I have seen. Anywhere from 90 degrees to 45 degrees, it's going to sit there perfectly still. So that's pretty key, especially if they're lethargic or they're not really active. You can sit that bait in front of their face without it sinking a little bit or floating. So that's, in my opinion, that's pretty key for just finding a bite. If you're trying to find out if they're biting a jerk bait, I mean, you can't go wrong with just starting there. It's Megabass. It's expensive, but it's expensive for a reason because it catches fish.
Yeah. Rolando, how about you, man?
Man, I have to agree with Chuck. I've been throwing a lot of jerk baits too, and I tried. I, when I first started, I was using the Rapala ones, and then I discovered, of course, the Megabass ones, and I've used the Jackal, I've used the Lucky Craft, and there's a bunch of them I've tried, and a lot of them are good, but there is something about that Megabass that just mm, when I mean, I've literally swapped jerk baits out, and they're not even like committing to it, and I swap it out to a Megabass Junior, and they commit, and it's like,
Yep.
and I think the design of how I think it has a better dart motion than a lot of the jerk baits, but there are times that it does not work, but more times than not it does, and
Yep.
it's probably the one you want to start with. That is my go-to as well, is the Megabass Junior. um, I use the junior size over the regular size more often.
Mm,
A lot of
Same
it
here.
for me has to do with the way they eat it. They just I have a better hookup ratio with the junior, because if they eat it sideways, crossways, they get it in fully engulfed. Where the other one's a little bit longer, and it could kind of sometimes get them on the outside, or it doesn't go all the way in. So I get a better hookup ratio with the junior than I do with the regular size. The plus one, I particularly use that one 90% of the time, because I'm usually fishing that 8 to 10 foot water.
Yep.
So I really don't. I mean, I do have times that I do throw the shallower ones, but man, it's rare. uh, in the Depending on your water temperature, obviously the colder the water, the more dense it is. But like Chuck said, that jerkbait suspends pretty well in pretty much all water temps. So I usually do like to sink mine sometimes. Sometimes I'll use the Hank Cherry one, which he likes to sink his, and his out of the box sinks right away. So the sinking part of it, I think it's better in more hot, like warmer waters, than it is in cold water. Like
Yep.
for me at least, I've noticed that they don't really like it too much when it sinks and when it's really cold versus when it's warm. The sink actually works better than the suspend.
Yep.
um,
That's kind of what I've seen too.
yeah, and then so thankful for LiveScope because LiveScope allows you to see their reaction and you can really tell whether you need to change color or not. A lot of the times I find myself using the jerkbait obviously in clear water, but the more you use it and the more you get better with it, and especially if you combine it with LiveScope, then water clarity doesn't matter. Like you can literally throw it in stained water and just put it in front of the fish, and it's a lot of the times they'll eat it. So
Yep.
you don't have that luxury when you don't have LiveScope because you're kind of blind casting and just hoping that you're casting in an area that has a high percentage of fish, and a lot of the times when you see these big fish caught these days with jerkbaits, it's a combination of live scope and jerkbaiting. Jerkbaiting in general,
Yeah.
before live scope really wasn't known for a big fish catcher. Like you just caught a lot of fish on it, and occasionally you would catch a big fish here and there. But the reason you've seen the jerkbait just is you got to thank Patrick Walters. He
Yeah.
kind of put it on the radar
Yeah,
there
right.
what
The
it could do
report.
when you combine it with the the front sonar. So that's why now you're starting to see a lot more people using it. But there's a cadence, and there's a time to use certain jerk baits. Practice is really what I would suggest for most people to do with it because
Yeah.
it it can be a tedious lure, and then also if you don't have the right combo, man, it will wear you out
Yeah.
unless you have the right combo. So if you have the right combo, man, you can jerk bait all day long. But usually that means a lighter rod, that means a lighter reel, and
Expensive.
that usually means dollar signs.
Yeah. So are there a couple of colors that you would suggest, like, if people are just getting started?
So yeah, I do the pearl blue is like a must.
Gotta have
Yep.
that's like the green pumpkin of jerk baiting.
Yeah, you gotta have pearl blue. You gotta have stain reaction. I have pearl for that like that.
The French pearl
Yeah, the French pearl for that
for
dirtier
the
water.
stained water. Yep,
Yep.
gotta have that.
And then I also have spawn cherry is a color I actually have learned to
Is it this one?
really. No, no, no. It's like
Okay.
it almost looks like your stain reaction, except it has a little bit of a glitter, like a pinkish in it.
Oh
Almost
yeah.
like a morning dawn type of style that it tries to give to it.
Oh,
That
kind of like yeah, this one right here. I think
Yeah, that is your
that's Northern
look
Lights.
Northern Lights. Yeah,
Yep.
it's kind of like that one, but
Yeah.
it has a little more pinkish in it.
Is there like if somebody can't afford the Mega Bass, is there one? Is it the Stunna, the one that you would say is like the budget
N-
model, or
n-
Smithwick, I guess, or
No, stun is a completely different because it sinks.
yeah, so summer, just summer,
Yeah, what I'd probably say, man, the Lucky Craft is really good.
the pointer.
The
Yeah,
pointer. Um, then you have so I think the Jackal re-range is in that $15 range, right?
I don't know.
Or is it 20?
Can't hear you, Chuck. Yeah, they I've seen some people post about that. I know what
Um,
Cliff Pace out of Mississippi. I know he's on a Jackal team, but he was talking about how good it is.
Yeah, the Jackal. It's because the Jackal. What it does is when it instead of like darting left and which it does, it darts, but it has like a roll to it.
Mm,
So it's a little bit different, and it could be it it just gives them a little bit of a different look. What they're used to. Because a lot of people are throwing the Mega Bass. Every
yeah,
when I first got on the Mega Bass, it was ridiculous. You could throw it, and they couldn't resist it. Now you're starting to see a little more resistance to it. Just like
Can you hear me?
front sonar. Yeah, we can hear you now. I don't know. I was just telling Dan Chuck that when I first started throwing the mega bass, it was crazy. They would just it was irresistible to the fish. I would get bites on it like just consistently. But over the years, I feel like they're kind of growing a little more used to it. Like it takes a little bit more than it used to. Before it was crazy. You just throw it out there and it's like guaranteed almost.
Yeah. When I
But
first started throwing a jerk bait, it was before I even got live scope, and that's when I kind of got addicted to it. Even like before I got live scope, like I would just
Yeah.
throw it around anything and everything, points, docks, rocks,
And it was like almost
grass
guaranteed.
lines, and you could catch a ton of fish, and sometimes you get lucky with some quality, like Rolando said.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely it seems like they have to be in the perfect mood now to come up and eat your lure.
Yeah, I
I think
just
just
think it.
because so many people are throwing it now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people throwing it now, so
Hmm.
it's slightly losing its effectiveness. But just like anything else, you gotta find ways to like, a lot of people fish jerk baits shallow. Well, I fish them deep sometimes, and you can get those deep fish out of there. Um, and you combine it with fishing on brush balls with live scope. That's the only way you can get away with fishing it deep. And that works very effectively. But
Yep.
it, you start getting into these national tournaments and you start competing with these people that are like really really good.
Yeah.
We're all doing the same stuff. Like everybody knows the same tricks and things. So it's hard to find any special area where you just feel like you just are slaying them now, because every bait gets used now, and it's hard to, they're losing their effectiveness. At least that's what's for me. Like this year, the jerk bait bite has been a bit tougher for me.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
it's been a little strange for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's not an all day bite anymore. It's more like one here, one there,
Yeah.
maybe a group of them here. But you can't.
No, 2 years
It's
ago, man, you could just put me with the jerk bait all day long, every season, all year long, and it was just like nonstop.
It's
Like
crazy
two,
it's
three.
changed that quick, huh?
Yeah, because I feel like we're in 23.
Yeah.
Um, in 20, I mean, I was using it at all the events, and I mean, every time I put put a live scope or see a brush pile, I mean, I would almost guaranteed every time. It was like 95% chance that I was going to catch whatever I was looking at. It's not like that anymore,
And
at least.
that's just getting them to come out to
Yep.
get them to come out.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
I always thought more. Whenever I think brush pile, I think like hitting it, like with a
Now,
crankbait or
right above
jig
it.
no,
or
yeah, a lot
flipping
of the
or
times
something.
you could see them like suspending around it, or if they're like buried inside, you can, you get it through there. Sometimes they'll come out and kind of explore things.
Hmm. Okay. So I guess we'll go to line. What kind of line are you using? I guess the whole line rod reel setup, the whole deal.
Yeah, I mean, I can go first.
Yeah.
I've gone through a lot of rods actually, and I finally landed. I tried the 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", and I finally landed on a 7 foot, and I
Hmm.
really like the 7 foot, because mainly because I like to fish it offshore, and I do fish it deep, and I like to get a really really long cast, and I get a better cast with that 7 footer. And most of the times I'm sitting down, so I'm jerking it to the right versus,
So the
you
length
know,
doesn't matter.
yeah. And then and the line size, I do throw it on a little bit higher size than 12 pounds is what I throw it on. But that's only because I throw that jerk bait into some heavy stuff sometimes, like around trees, or if I'm targeting bigger fish, like if I'm at Lake Fork, I'm throwing it on 12 pounds, and because those I want to be able to pull on
Get
those
them in.
fish,
Yeah.
and but ideally, the jerkbait does work better on that 8 to 10 pound test line in clear water. It really does work better, and I've seen it where you get more bites on the lighter line than you do on the 12-pound test. But whenever I'm throwing it in stained water, it doesn't play a huge role, and I can get and I feel a little safer when I'm targeting those 6 7 pounders,
Yeah. You mind saying the
of
brands
line.
and everything you use? Yeah. The
Yeah,
whole.
the Brunel, I use Seagar Invisics
Yeah.
for it. I've tried the other lines, but anytime you try to use like an abrasive line resistant, they're too stiff.
Yeah.
And I found that Invisics has just the right like flexibility in the line, and it also and it's strong enough. So yeah, that's what I like. I usually, if you try to throw it like on abrasives or something, that line's too stiff, and it holds a lot of memory. And those are good for like maybe when you're flipping into things and stuff like that. So you need a little flexibility in the line, especially as you go up in poundage, right? I wouldn't throw a jerkbait anything more than 12 pounds, but I mean, I'm sure there's off scenarios that you may use 14, 15 for it if you're fishing super shallow and crazy stuff. But really, I have it on 12-pound most of the time. And then if I find that they're not reacting to it and I'm fishing clear water, I'll change the reel out and I put one that I carry that has like 10 or 8 pounds test line, and I throw it on a 7 medium.
I was about to ask.
7 medium medium rod. It's a custom rod. It's a North Fork blank. J Rod Custom Builds here in San Antonio made it for me, and the reel I use is the Aldebaran MGL. I use the Aldebaran because it's a lighter spool. It's a shallower spool, man, and you can cast the lightest lures super far with that thing. I've yet to try another reel. I've had other reels, but I'm a big Shimano and Daiwa.
Yeah.
But I lean a lot more towards Daiwa now.
Yeah,
But
he's Shimano and I'm Daiwa.
Yep.
But I cannot find a Daiwa that performs as well as the Aldebaran, and there's no replacing that one right now. So
What gear ratio do you use?
I think that one is a 7 something.
7?
Yeah, it's a 7, and it's 12-pound test line. It has a short because it has a shallower spool, and you can cast that sucker really far. That rod also has the micro guides on it, and I didn't think I was gonna like them, but it really works well with that line and those light lures with the micro guides. But those are like custom micro guides. They're like pretty heavy duty style. So, man, in the wind, I can be like offshore in like 13, 14 mile wind, and then with like 20 gusts. And that's the beauty about the Mega Bass has that transfer weight system. Man, I can chunk that sucker and I won't even get any backlash, and it just cuts right through the wind. But if you throw other jerk baits that don't have a transfer weight system, you won't be able to fish it effectively in the wind.
There you go.
And I always fish my jerk baits against the wind.
Yep.
So I'm casting into the wind.
Yeah, if it's super windy, the Shimano one, it's got they call it, I guess, the cast boost or whatever.
Those are good. I use that.
It's like a tungsten slide in there, and these cast really, really well in the wind too.
I haven't played with the. I own a whole bunch of those. I ordered the Shimano flash boosters or whatever they're called. I can't remember. But I actually
World Flash Minnow.
Flash Minnow. I haven't actually used them enough, and I have a whole bunch of them, but freaking use the Mega Bass so much more often, right? But I can't really tell you, Chuck, if you use them. I don't know. I'd like to hear your opinion on them.
Yeah, they're good. They suspend well. They have a deeper one, but I just have some shallow ones right here.
Mm-hmm.
If it's super clear water, it's amazing because that little twitcher, there's like a piece of foil inside, and it's suspended with 2 springs, and you don't even have to move it, and it just sits there. I don't know. And
it's flashing.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's crazy looking, and it comes with the Aaron Martin's hooks. Those are good. The G Finesse. It comes with those stock. So, another good solid choice for a jerkbait.
Do y'all change out those Mega Bass hooks? I know they're like love or hate.
I do.
You do.
I'll
buy a $25.
I'll keep them
$25 lure, and then
I know they're pretty. They skimp you on that, man. But those hooks are good. Don't get me wrong; they're super sticky. But I don't use those if I'm going to like fork and I'm trying to catch 7, 8, 9 pounders. And I'll swap them out. I'll use the Aaron Martin ones, or there's another Japanese brand. I can't even think of the name right now that I order. Ryugi, I think, makes some, and I use those, and I swap them out.
I'm cheap, so I keep my stock hooks until they mess up, and then I'll change them out to like G Finesse or whatever.
But there is no sharper hook than those stock hooks. I'll tell you that. Those things are so sharp.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid of them because you can easily bend them out. If on big fish, on little fish, you're okay. But like you catch a 7, 8. and it starts to run towards like a tree or something, I start getting scared because when I first had those, I would get some where I would net them, and I was like, oh my gosh, it already had opened up like two of them,
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I keep my drag kind of, or not set, not locked down, but enough to
yeah,
give. And I just kind of, if there is brush around, you just kind of have to hope and play the fish around and not
yeah.
try not to get hung up. But luckily, if you do get hung up in something, those hooks will pull through.
Yep,
You know, uh,
that's the good thing
sometimes.
about them. Yeah,
But
you.
I have I have 5 combos here that I have used. Right now,
This guy.
my favorite one is this setup right here. It's a Zodius 610 medium light with a Shimano Scorpion, 10
Okay.
pound fluoro. That's a good one right now. But I also have everyone's favorite, what's most known, the X Pride 610 medium
Yep.
with the outer Baron on there too. So
Yep. See, yeah. So Chuck's, yeah, he
you,
passes. He
you can't
passes
go
the.
wrong. You can't go wrong with that setup. But I know there's some guys who love throwing it on a spinning rod, and that's totally fine if you like that stuff. But
You
I do
own a
have,
spinning rod? Get out of here.
yeah, this is like my one of my 2 rods. It's a 6'9" medium, but I do have the Stratic on there, so you can throw a jerkbait on that
With the
Perry
Phoenix
one.
feather, right?
Yeah, it's a Phoenix feather.
I
It's
thought I
super
saw that.
light, and the thing that's like Rolando said, the thing that's in common with all these rods is they're super light. They balance well in your hand, and they have a fast tip. It's very important to have a fast tip,
Yep.
in my opinion, because you want the tip to move quickly or quicker, so that you get that darting action with that jerkbait. But you also don't want to have a medium heavy or a too heavy of a rod because you'll pull those hooks pull the hooks right out.
Yep.
So it's very hard to find a good rod that has both of those mixes, like something that'll give, but something that's quick enough.
And I
Um,
think that's, all of that said, that everything we're talking about is what's kept people never wanting to use a jerkbait because
yep.
it's one of the
It's
it's
very
one of the
specific.
techniques. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of the techniques that it's there's a lot of little components to make that technique effective, like really effective. And
Dan, here's
yep.
one for you too. The Corrado 610 medium. It's $150, I think. And I bought this Aldebaran from some guy in Japan for like less than $200. So you can get budget gear and still be able to be effective with a jerkbait. Um, but
Yep.
keep that one in your mind, Dan. I know you don't want to jump into it, but I'm telling you, you need to throw it.
Yeah, I don't have a dedicated jerkbait rod. I have a 7 foot medium. It's a Loomis G2 that I use for some other
Hank
crankbaits.
Cherry,
But
he uses
that,
a
that that
seven
that's what
foot.
I'll throw it on to.
I think Hank Cherry uses a 7 foot medium heavy on 14-pound test. So you can,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rolando uses a 7 foot, so you can use a 7 foot, man. It's
yeah.
not an
I
issue.
throw mine with 12, but
Yeah.
it's so you use 10 normally, Chuck?
Yeah, I would say 90% of the time I use 10, unless I go to like a grass lake like Gunnersville. I'll bump it up to
Mhm.
like not really to fight the fish because there's bigger fish, but to keep it above that grass. I think Rolando mentioned that earlier. 12-pound is a good choice. It'll probably keep you up about a foot higher than what you would go on 10. And 14, I know some guys that use 14 to 15-pound test. Um, if they're like around giant fish or they want to keep it really shallow,
Hmm.
that's totally fine too.
Yeah, we don't have too many of them big bigs like Rolando's talking about.
Oh yeah,
In Central
over
Alabama.
there, over there in Texas, man.
I
Yeah.
know we get spoiled, man. Sometimes when I leave, I've left Texas to go fishing, and I'm like, gosh darn it, I'm past catching all these 16, 17s, and everybody's like, dude, that's a good fish here,
That's
and
a
I'm like,
good one. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, not freaking Texas has us spoiled.
I think Chuck, did you catch that the one at Oak Mountain on a jerkbait?
Yeah,
Yeah, Chuck caught
uh,
a lake that has three
I caught
fish. He
I caught
found
it
the
on
the
this one.
124 inch in there at
That's
This
this.
the
Yeah,
so the water was stained that day, or it was more than stained. So I remember that I bought this bright red jerkbait. It's a stunner. I don't
yep.
know. I can't remember the name, but it's like a
the name is
red
ugly.
a red tiger, but
I have
it's
that one too.
yeah,
I've never thrown it.
it's the same premise as having a bright white one. It's just a solid color.
Hmm.
Red kind of pops out like a white in muddy water. But the fish can see it better, so that's kind of why I was throwing that one. And I was testing it out too. So I just kind of got lucky and saw that fish, threw at it, and dude, it came up and it didn't hesitate. It was that was a big fish.
And you use Chuck. You use the live scope. You said, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
started out not using it,
Yeah.
and it was just as effective. Throwing jerk, you can literally throw a jerk bait anywhere, except for maybe
Yeah.
two places, which is shallow grass. There's flukes for that. And there was one other place, like if it's super super muddy water. Now you can be in like around like a less about a foot is about a foot of visibility is about where it kind of
Yeah.
cuts off
Yeah.
and it
Hmm.
gets a little harder. But yeah, I mean, even if you don't have live scope, which I know a lot of guys still don't. Hey CC,
It's
here's
a good.
CC,
It's a good way
here's CC's
to.
jerkbait rod.
There you
Hey,
go.
it's a good way to catch numbers. And if you're like just you go to a lake that's clear and it's tough, man, it throw that sucker on 8-10 pound test line, and you'll catch a limit.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then you can work towards bigger fish. But and then the lighter lures, like there are lighter jerk baits that I throw, like there's smaller jerk baits that sometimes I'll throw, which is like that are smaller than the Mega Bass Junior.
Hmm.
I think it's the Mega Bass Hannah, I think it's called.
I know there's
A little,
a trick darter. I know there's that one.
yeah, there's a little bit. It's a little bit smaller than a Junior,
Okay.
um, and it's really good too. But those you would want to throw kind of like on a spinning cast deal because they start getting real light.
Hmm.
I
And
still actually
that's
what's that?
just try to get more bites.
Yeah, it's just to get more bites. There's been times where the size of the profile of the bait fish that are around, like
Mhm.
I've been sometimes throwing it, and if you want to kind of match the hatch, I downsize a little bit to that 3 inch size, and there are times that I've noticed
Oh, yeah.
downsizing it makes a difference.
Hmm.
So I just have all sizes when it comes to jerk baits, the 3 inch, the regular junior, and then the bigger ones. And then I even have some bigger ones too.
The big
That Lucky
pointer.
Crap, yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, I
big
think
pointer.
the katana is the mega
Hmm.
bass one that's like 6 inches long.
Yeah,
But yeah, like basically hard jerk bait is 3 to 6 inches long.
yep.
That's about what I would consider. Anything bigger than that, and you're getting in some kind of different lure. I think if you're fishing for muskie or something.
Yeah, and I always recommend if someone's getting into this jerk baiting, they really want, and they don't have live scope, I would make sure that you throw it only when it's clear water, because you're gonna once
Yeah,
you start getting into that stained water, you're not gonna you're not gonna find it as effective unless you're pairing it up with your sonar, where you're actually seeing where you're throwing it.
and if you're wanting to just get into it, you don't have to invest in mega bass.
Yeah.
I have a couple proven like cheaper brands, like the H2O, the Academy brand. Uh, it's $5.99. You can get you a couple of them, throw it around. If you lose it, whatever. But it suspends pretty well, and it's pretty good lure.
Man,
Uh,
I've never bought the Academy brand ones, but
yeah,
when I go look at them, I'm like, man, some of those look like they're kind of the same profile as
Yeah.
like some of the
I,
high end
yeah.
ones. So I'm
I
like,
mean,
I
I was
wouldn't
about to
doubt it
say
if
you
they're
held that up, and it's like that looked like a megabass to me.
yeah, like the for the guys listening on the podcast or that aren't watching on YouTube, what it I have a top one. It's a Megabass 110,
Yeah.
and the Academy. They're the same, almost the same exact uh, blank. Which
yeah.
also leads me to you can hand paint your own. You can buy blanks from these random stores and
Hmm.
hand paint jerk baits. Another good one for like a cheaper brand is the 13 Fishing
Oh yeah, I forgot it.
Whippersnapper.
Yep.
They have a deep and a shallow diving, and it's $6.99. I mean, you
That is
can't beat
actually a
that.
really good one.
One that surprised me was the Guggen. I know everyone talks crap about the Guggen, but I've probably caught more fish on this, just like going down the bank, throwing it, not caring, than a lot of these other baits. It does pretty well. So there's options. You don't have to spend $25 on a
Right.
jerkbait, but yeah, that's kind of my little spiel.
Yeah, yeah, he's right, dude. Jerkbaits. The thing is if it looks pretty decent and it has the right shape. I don't like really bulky jerkbaits. I like them
Yep.
more
Oh,
streamlined. So you get one of those. Usually, it's gonna do pretty well. But I will tell you that you start getting into big tournaments and you see fish that are not biting. You might want to have one or two in the box that are mega bass.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My tournament jerkbaits are the mega bass for sure. That's number one. And then I'll go to the stunner. And my favorite color in the stunner is hanky panky, and it's the
Hanky panky.
same.
Yep.
It's the same color as that
Oh,
reaction, that stain reaction. Um, yeah, so I'm trying to get more confidence in the Shimano one, the Flash Minnow or the World Minnow, whatever they call it. But yeah,
How much is that one? It's
which one?
the Shimano one.
It's $20, so
Mm.
it's cheaper than the 110. The Stunna's 15, I think.
hmm
I've tried the Provoke, the Sixth Sense,
Yeah, I'm
but
with you.
the
Yep.
same thing Rolando said, like it made me kind of crack up a little. But I was fishing a tournament at Duck River, and I was like, I want to try that. I got one of their new deep divers. I was like, I want to try it. I was throwing it, nothing. They would kind of come up to it, just swim off. I literally tied this exact bait right here, this 110 Junior +1, caught that same fish that turned away from it. So I know for a fact that there is something. I don't exactly know what it is, but there is something to specific jerkbaits.
Yeah. Do you think the big difference is because they're getting such a good look at it? Like that's why it's a technique that, like you might can catch one on with lesser equipment, lesser baits, but because they're getting such a good look at it, then, and all those other things really mean success, I guess.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I
go
think,
ahead, Rolando.
yeah, I think so. I mean, the detail that Mega Bass puts on those, I think it helps, of course. And here's the deal with people, you'll talk to people that will say, um, like, oh, I catch fish, all the time running the bank, and it doesn't matter if it's, fluorocarbon or or braid and this, and I'm like, yeah, I was like, unless you're catching 6+ pounders all day long, then I can't argue with you. But once you start targeting bigger fish, like tournament winning fish, those fish didn't get big for being dumb. They observe a lot more than little fish. Little fish, you can catch them all day long on all kinds of stuff. You can throw a 20-pound test line, jerk bait, throw up there and catch a little 1 pounder, right? But your bigger fish, I feel like definitely pay attention more to their surroundings. They're a lot more aware. Um, and they've probably, if they haven't gotten caught and put on a skillet, they've gotten released so many times that they're already conditioned to things. So time has taught them to be like a little more, to watch out for things in their environment, and they don't commit that very easy. So they have to be, not only do you have to fool them to make it look real, but it also has to have the right darting action. There has to be more realism for a bigger fish to commit. And the only time you catch a big fish in the hot mess of things, and it doesn't matter what you're throwing, is when they're feeding heavily and
Yeah.
there's just a lot of commotion around,
Yep.
and you're just running a bait by them and they're just caught up in the moment. But bigger fish, you definitely have to take more time with them.
Yeah. And that maybe is a dumb question, but do either y'all both also throw a spy bait? And when would you throw? Like I have both in the box, and I can't think of a time when I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna throw a spy bait over a jerk bait," or vice versa. Did either y'all have anything on
Uh,
that?
I have thrown the spy bait, and I've thrown is it the Berkeley one? I
Hmm.
think I've the
They
one.
have
That's
one.
the one. Yeah, I'm not a big spy bait person, but I have thrown them. Those I do know that you have to throw them on a lighter line.
Yeah.
I tried when the first time I tried throwing it on 12 pound, I'd never get bit.
Yep.
Mm.
I throw mine on the same setup as like a quarter ounce jig head and a 2.8 Kitech, like a spinning setup.
Yeah.
Inland Lake, Dan. If you want to go get good at the spy bait, go to inland.
Yeah, see, I throw them, and I don't know. I probably caught I might have 4 of them in my box. And I've probably caught 6 fish in my whole life on spy bait. So
That's
it's
usually when they're
yeah,
really suspended, though, right? So
Yeah, I don't
you
throw it
you,
a ton, but
yeah,
I'll
you
I'll
gotta
throw a 2.8 over that.
yeah, you would have to like you gotta know it's colder months when you know the fish suspend, right? During the fall, late fall, winter times, you that's when you're having your fish suspend a little bit more, leaning into the spring. When you scan over them and you see them and they're like in a little drop off and they're suspended perfectly, and they're doing everything that the Bassmasters magazine tells us, right? And they're
yeah,
going to be there. If they're not roaming around a lot, you can consistently cast over there and just kind of get that bait right through them, and
count it
it'll
down right
work
here.
and it'll catch them. But it's really when they're isolated in an area, that's not a good bait for when they're moving around chasing things. Like
There
they
you
have
go.
to be put somewhere. At least that's been the times that I've thrown it. That's when I've really caught stuff, when I know that they're sitting somewhere and they're kind of just suspended. When they're roaming around and chasing stuff, you need a little bit more of a erratic. You got to stand out more. So that's when your jerk baits, or like the jackal. The jackal does really well when it's like when they're feeding, because you get a lot of flash out of that one, a
Hmm.
lot of roll.
Yep.
So that one gets their attention a lot. So that one really works where in that scenario. The mega bass works really good when it's in isolated like brush piles or water or areas where there's not a lot going on. It really works well because they'll observe that jerk bait, and it has a lot of attention to detail, so it fools them a little bit more than it does with the other ones.
Gotcha. Well, there you go. I'm glad I asked that question. And I've had 2 baits I really don't know much about, but I'm
Yeah,
learning. So,
yeah, no,
so
it's I gotta get some more jackals. I actually lost the few that I've had, and I haven't replaced them, but um,
seems
lately I've
like
been
if you're going after brush piles, you're probably losing a few, huh?
I don't lose them so much in that. You know where I lose them is when I forget to retie.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yep.
just like going and going, and then I go to set the hook on one, and then it just it'll bust, and I'm like, gosh, I haven't retied it.
Hmm. And it's so what, like with the jerking, the motions, besides just you let it sit for longer if it's colder. Like what are kind of your thoughts on that?
Uh, for Texas, for me, I don't let it sit very long because our water temps really don't get like in the 40s. It's rare unless I'm like this past year, and that was a situation in Dallas this past Bassmasters event where it was snowing. I mean, it was crazy at night. Not snowing, but it was frozen. Frozen. It was like in the teens. But other than that, I'm not pausing very long unless that water's in the 40s. Like if it's in the 50s, I'm pretty much doing 1, 2, 3, stop, 1, 2, stop, 1, 2, 3, stop. That's all the way down to like 52, 53 water temps. I don't get to see that many water temps below that. So I don't really sit there and wait like you normally read, where it's like, yeah, I waited 15 seconds before the next, jerk. I don't experience that here in Texas very much.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
mostly like a 2 second pause, 3 second pause for me.
Yeah. I always start with just the normal like jerk jerk pause, and I'll just repeat that. And then if I might change it up where I go like a jerk pause, but I'm gonna move it pretty quickly
Yep.
until I get a reaction out of something. And then I will tinker around with, do I let it sit? Do I move it quicker? Do I do 3 jerks this time? I'll experiment. Like, and each fish is different. If anything Life Skip's taught me with jerk baiting, every fish is different. And I can't remember the last time I let a jerk bait sit. I was out fishing this afternoon today at Logan. Uh, I think I caught 2 or 3 just in like an hour and a half. And it was 50-degree water temp. And I was, to get them to commit, I didn't let it sit. I had to, jerk, jerk, pause for like a split second and just keep jerking that thing.
Yep.
And that was just either that the mindset of that school of fish or those few fish right there. But yeah, it can be different. Each part of the lake can be different. Each fish can be different. It's you just kind of have to stick with one. People overthink it. I think a lot of the times, and
Yeah.
you just do it like fish a cadence that is kind of natural to you. Think of your favorite song. Think of a saying. Just whatever you can kind of keep that same
You sound like you have a saying, Chuck. What is it?
jerk pause.
Jerk
Oh,
pause.
I thought you had like I love titties or like you had something in your mind you were thinking about,
Man, most of the time it's just muscle memory right now. I
Sorry,
have to.
Laura.
She can hear
That's
you. You're
funny.
good.
wife. Sorry.
She's showing them to me right now.
Oh Lord.
But yeah, it's almost. I kind of like zone out a little bit. Just I have that my muscle memory, and then when I want to change from that, that's when I kind of have to think, okay, I need to let it pause a little longer, or I need to try something
Yeah.
different.
I
A
think
lot
the
of
normal is jerk pause. That's what usually
yeah,
everybody does. 1, 2,
and
3 pause.
yep, yeah, and you can change it up you like I said, you can do whatever you want to with it.
But
It's
what
just
what
just
it
throw it.
yeah, what is important though is when you're doing those jerks, not
Yep,
not to move the jerk bait with the line.
jerk the
Like
slack.
you got to jerk the slack.
Yep, jerk the slack.
You
You never
got to
want to
jerk the slack
pull the jerk bait with your rod tip.
because
I've seen it, and they'll turn off of it immediately.
yeah, they'll turn off
As
of
soon
it.
as they
Yep.
see it kind of wiggle, it's that fish he's suspicious, and he's not going to do anything with it.
It's so weird. I don't know the science behind it, but yeah, if you jerk and you like do something where you kind of just move that line and you pull that lure a little bit, they
Or if the
won't
wind's
commit to it.
blowing, yep,
Yep. You got to make sure it's on slack line. And if you watch them underwater videos, like you can see where it's there's a difference on how it looks when you just jerk it on slack line. It really darts and it
yep,
stops.
yeah. The mega bass, they have a good like side to side erratic action. But I can't remember. There's one that almost like turns around, and it might be the Hank Cherry. Like it almost does a 360 if you jerk it perfectly on the slack line.
Mhm.
There you
Yep.
go. Well, I won't hold y'all up too long. Is there anything else I missed?
There's one more thing I want to say. If you're jerk baiting a lot, you're gonna get fatigue. Is build your forearm muscles up. Get
Look at
something
this.
like this.
Look at this
There's
son of a bitch. He's got a
it,
Oh
jerk
yeah.
bait workout.
it's a dumbbell, 8 pound or 7 pound dumbbell attached to a rope tied to a stick,
Yeah, going old
and
school.
you let it fall down. It used to be a baseball workout. You reel it up and you roll it up with your hands, and it really strengthens your forearm muscles because if you're jerking all day, uh, it,
You're gonna get
it, it
tired.
and anything you can do to they have the little grip things for your hand, like hand strength.
Yeah.
Do that too. Like if you're driving to the lake, just
See, that's
pop
that
out a few
if
rounds.
I was a newbie on the other side, I'd be like, man, that's just too much. Just give me a crankbait.
Yeah. Well, this is advanced.
Yeah.
Bro, you got to work out for this technique. This is crazy.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
Yeah, give me a
it
top
works.
water. God, give me one of those. What?
Hellraiser,
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
you go. And any of the easy top waters, sure.
Whopper Plopper.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I meant.
Give me a whopper plopper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
All
yeah,
right.
no, yeah, that's pretty much it for my part as far as jerk baits. I guess in summing it up is make sure your rod combo is good because
Yep.
that the lightness, light equipment usually costs more, and so that's part that's going to cost you 8 to 12 pound test line. Um, our
Look for
top choices are going to be the Jackal, the Mega Bass, Lucky Craft. And then he gave
Sparkling in the
Chuck.
summer. Yeah.
Yep.
I,
And then your hooks, I swap them out on the Mega Bass ones. So if you're targeting like big fisheries that have like a lot of big fish, I recommend changing them out. But you definitely can play them out with the regular hooks. Absolutely. Those hooks are sharp. They're actually pretty good. You don't really need to change them out. But if you start dabbling with changing hooks, you just know that you really have to pay attention to what you're doing because you start messing with the suspense rate on those things.
Yeah, I weigh all my rods. I don't know if you guys can see, but
Yeah.
I have a little scale, and I literally
This
weigh
is
every
why
rod.
he won
I,
Angler of the Year last year. This is
I,
why.
the perfect jerkbait rod is around 4 ounces, in my opinion. The X Prod 610 is 3.9 ounces. The Corrado 610 is 3.9 ounces. Uh, One that I didn't mention yet, and I will because it's a really good one and I like it a lot, is the Phoenix Feather 6.9. It's actually a medium heavy, but I don't know if you guys know this, but Phoenix is probably like a half power or a whole power lower than what they say.
Is that a
So it's
glass
no, it's a regular graphite.
or like a blend, right? I was thinking
Composite.
composite. Yeah.
I don't know exactly. I want to say that they're just normal, like graphite rods.
Yeah, Phoenix actually makes some really nice rods. I
But
have them. Yeah.
it's a 6.9 medium heavy, and it's $150 too. Like
Wow.
and it is I think 3 ounces. That's how much that rod weighs.
That's
Uh,
great. Yeah.
for my
That's not a
reels,
Have one of
that's
their
not a
spinning
that's not a
rods.
composite then if it's 3 ounces.
yeah, it's let's see, I have it written down. Yeah, it's 3.1 ounces is how much that weighs.
Wow.
So another thing, I think we already talked about this, but the reel, guys, there's SLXs for $100. They're light, but anything less than 7 ounces is what I consider a good jerkbait reel. Those Aldebarans are like 5 ounces. But you just want something that your palm that you can grip, whatever
Yeah.
kind of fits your hand size. Because if you get something too big or too small, that will also cause some wrist fatigue. So you want to everyone's different when it comes to the reel, from what I've seen. But that 70 to
And it
50
doesn't
size
matter
spool.
how much you bench press
Oh
at the
yeah,
gym. It doesn't matter because trust me, I used to go to the gym and I was, fit, and man, you would still get an arm pump on
yep,
doing all that stuff. But I think Chuck, I don't know if you agree with me, but when the real selection, I like the shallow spool
yep. That 50
because
size spool. Yep,
yeah, because the more line you put, the heavier it makes the combo.
yep,
So
exactly. Yep.
Makes sense for sure. All
It's
right.
science,
Well,
man.
hmm,
it's science. Well, there you go. Well, before I let you go, give you a chance to shout out any sponsors, anybody that makes fishing easier for you. Chuck, we'll start with you, man. Shout out Pilar.
Number one is Pilar, my
That's
wife.
right.
Without her, I couldn't be doing this right now. I couldn't be out there, throwing jerk baits all the time and spending her hard-earned money on these mega bass.
Yeah.
But our hard-earned money, I guess. But thank my family, God, you, Dan, for having me on. You've been a big part of me coming to the kayak fishing world, and
There you
yeah,
go.
it's
And then
been
he beats me all the time. Great.
good, man. Yeah, you gave me Scruffy.
yeah.
Yeah. And I gave him my dang dog.
Damn, you give him your dog.
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
good
my
friend
him
there.
his I don't know. My kid and Scruffy didn't really get along, and he just needed a better home. Now we have a big stupid dog that just doesn't do anything.
Scruffy and Cece are best friends, so
See,
I'll send you some pictures later.
it worked out. Rolando, how about you,
Nice.
man?
Yeah, man. Same thing, Chuck. I mean, like Chuck mentioned, man. My wife, thank God that she lets me do the fishing stuff. And then, of course, I have a little tackle shop here in San Antonio. They got a website too that you guys can visit. They carry a lot of the stuff that I fish with. So Outdoor Alphas, fish and tackle shop. And then J Rods, custom builds and repairs. I get a little bit. I have a custom rod for my jerk bait, so I had him build it. And of course Z Pro. You know
That's right. Z Pro.
Z
Z
Pro,
Pro.
they
Wow.
hooked me up with the power for my yak, man, and makes my life easier, because those things are pretty reliable. I haven't had any issues with them, and I'm just wait. I created a battery box out of there too, so I got a 12-volt 60 amp right now that I'm all excited about because it's just a one play and plug deal now. So
Nice.
before I used to have a battery in the back that I get powered life scope with, and then one in the front that would power everything else, and
Yep.
now it's just one plug and play, and it's kind of nice. So that's
Are,
pretty
are,
much
are
it.
are you using separate batteries for your
I
like I
was.
keep seeing more people saying where for their graph and for their live scope, they're using two different I don't know. Yeah, I don't own live scope, so
Uh,
I don't know.
I
so I'll
do.
tell you right now, for the longest time, I was using two separate batteries till just like a week ago, and now I was using two 12 volts, 10 amps bridged together, and I was powering them in the back straight just to my live scope. And then I had a 12 volt 30 amp that was just powering my graph.
Graph, yeah.
Now I have two 12 volt 30 amps bridged together that power everything. And yesterday, yesterday I was out fishing. I didn't notice a difference on my live scope. It looked the same.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I do separate batteries on mine, but the only reason is because I keep my black box under my seat in case, I have a buddy who wants to put the live scope on his bass boat or whatever, then I can actually take it off my kayak. So if you do the same battery, you have to drill the hole for the black box cord to come to the graph. So it's kind of like once it's in there, it's really hard to take it out. That's the only reason I do it for right now.
Yeah. Maybe this year I'll win something. Win some more tournaments, and then I'll have some
Dan,
more
you
money.
always win at least one.
Dan, do you have live scope, Dan?
No, not yet.
He's got the 93 though. That's all he needs.
Got the 93.
Hobie
Just
93. Whenever we won all of our money with the KFL, I went like trailer and everything. Chuck went electronics, so I had my trailer and my boxes, my rod box, and all that set up now. Now I just need some more money for that. So
yeah, well, hopefully we all have a good year this year, man. Because
that's right.
Every year
It's
I
gonna
feel
be
like
fun.
it gets more competitive every year, man, and it just feels like it gets tough.
Yeah, we get more and more bass guys coming over here.
Dude, I went to I posted on social media, and everybody's like, whatever. Dude, boats are so expensive. It's
yeah.
I mean, Hobie, Titan, Graphs, everything else. I get that's expensive. There was a Sea Arc, a freaking Sea Arc. This is like the night. It's not like top end. It was not awesome. I'll say mid range at best. 45,000 with a 115. And that was on sale for the boat show. $45,000. They done lost their minds. Then insurance. You got to finance it, so then you got interest rate, and then you got to put gas on it, then you got maintenance, then you got all the other stuff you have to keep.
Oh, dude, it's a lot of money. Yeah, and 115. Yeah. Good luck
you're getting smoked by everybody.
You're gonna get the scraps every time you go to a tournament.
Yeah, you're
gonna be last. Get to your spot.
And that's not including good electronics. Then you got to have a power pole. Then you got to have battery, the power pole charge deal,
and all the lithium batteries to power
the
that
battery.
stuff.
Yeah. No, man, I came from the boat side. Until I can't pedal anymore, I'll probably just go to a autopilot then. But until then, man, I'm in a kayak. I'm good.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
That's real life. I'm just never going back.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying my kayak, man.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I bought the kayak and to buy me some time to get a boat, and then after a while I was like, you know what, I'm having too much fun. I'm hooked.
I scratch it. It feels. I mean, I don't. If you're listening to this, I don't have to sell you on kayak fishing, but it's a different experience. I really enjoy it. So
yeah.
I was the same as Rolando. I started out with a cheap academy boat too, and once you go yak, you don't go back.
No. Yep.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
We'll leave you alone.
Yeah. Thank y'all for watching, and we'll see y'all again next week.
All right, man. Appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.